My name is Helen. I'm 69 years old, and this is the story of how I spent a year in complete silence, how a miracle gave me back my hearing, and how the first words I heard shattered my heart into 1,000 pieces. It was 6:47 p.m. on a Thursday when I stood in my son's hallway and heard my daughter-in-law Rebecca say on the phone, her voice dripping with disgust, "She's a burden, honestly. I can't wait until she's gone." My son Michael laughed in the background. That woman, the one I had welcomed into my family 12 years ago, was talking about me, and they had no idea I could hear every word. Because for 11 months, I had been completely deaf, and for 6 days, I had been able to hear again. But I hadn't told anyone. I wanted it to be a surprise at a special dinner I was planning. But instead of joy, what I discovered in those 6 days of secret listening destroyed everything I thought I knew about my family. Let me tell you how silence taught me to hear the truth. But before I continue, check if you're already subscribed to the channel and leave your like. And tell me in the comments, where in the world are you listening to my story from? I really want to know how far it has reached. It started on March 14th of last year, my late husband Richard's birthday. He had passed 3 years earlier from a heart attack, and I was driving to the cemetery with fresh daffodils, his favorite flowers. It was a Tuesday morning, 10:30 a.m. I was stopped at a red light on Maple Avenue when I heard tires screeching behind me. In the rearview mirror, a pickup truck was barreling toward me. The driver was looking at his phone. He didn't see the red light. He didn't see me. I remember thinking very clearly, he's not going to stop. And he didn't. The impact was so violent my car spun twice before slamming into a telephone pole. Metal crushing, glass shattering, the airbag exploding in my face. Then everything went black. I woke up in Mercy General Hospital 6 hours later. Michael was there, his face pale. A doctor stood beside him. Their mouths were moving, but I couldn't hear anything. Not their voices, not the machines beeping. Nothing. Just thick, heavy silence, pressing down on my eardrums like cotton stuffed deep inside my head. The panic hit me like a second collision. I grabbed Michael's arm and pointed frantically at my ears. The doctor wrote on a notepad, "You have severe head trauma. Your hearing has been affected. We're running tests." 2 days later, the diagnosis came. I had bilateral sensorineural hearing loss. Both auditory nerves were damaged. The neurologist, Dr. Patricia Morrison, wrote me a long explanation. The damage might be permanent, or it might heal. We've seen hearing return after weeks, months, even a year. But we've also seen cases where it never comes back. For now, you'll need to adapt. Adapt. As if losing one of your primary senses at 68 was something you could just adapt to. Michael took me home after 5 days. I was bruised, ribs cracked, wrist fractured, but the worst injury was invisible. The endless, suffocating silence that followed me everywhere. The first week was hell. I'd wake up and reach for the TV remote, then remember I couldn't hear it. I'd expect familiar sounds, the coffee maker, birds chirping, my own footsteps. Nothing. Just silence and strange pressure inside my head. Michael and Rebecca lived 20 minutes away with their kids, Emma, who was 9, and Daniel, who was 6. They visited 3 times that first week with groceries and accommodations. Michael installed flashing lights for the doorbell. Rebecca brought notebooks for communication. But I saw the strain in their eyes, the frustration of writing everything down. After 2 weeks, visits became weekly, then every other week. I joined a support group at the community center. 8 of us learning sign language, sharing struggles. For the first time since the accident, I didn't feel completely alone. I also started seeing Dr. James Chen, a specialist in auditory nerve regeneration. Every month, tests, scans, evaluations. Every month he'd write, "No change yet, but don't lose hope." Months crawled by. I celebrated my 69th birthday in silence. I spent Thanksgiving at Michael's house, feeling like a ghost in my own family, watching through soundproof glass. Christmas was worse. I couldn't hear Emma and Daniel's laughter as they opened presents. When I tried to help Rebecca in the kitchen, she wrote, "It's easier if I do it myself. You can't hear the timer." That night I went home and cried for 3 hours. I cried for Richard, who wasn't there to hold me. I cried for the sounds I missed. I cried because I felt like I was disappearing into silence, becoming invisible to the people I loved. But I kept seeing Dr. Chen. Every month. Test after test. And then, on February 9th, 11 months after the accident, something happened. I was in Dr. Chen's examination room during the standard hearing test. I had done this 11 times before and heard nothing. But this time, in my right ear, I heard something. A faint beep. I grabbed Dr. Chen's arm. He wrote quickly, "Did you hear something?" I nodded, tears streaming down my face. He played the tone again. There it was, a tiny, beautiful beep. Over 6 hours, Dr. Chen ran every test. The results were clear. My right auditory nerve was regenerating. My hearing was coming back. Still weak, about 30% of normal, but real. "Can it get better?" I wrote. Dr. Chen smiled and wrote, "Yes, with treatment we can accelerate the regeneration. There's a very good chance you'll regain most or all of your hearing in that ear. Maybe both." For 2 weeks I went every other day for treatments, sound therapy, nerve stimulation, supplements. And it worked. My hearing got stronger daily. By February 23rd, I could hear conversations spoken into my right ear. By March 1st, I could hear the TV at normal volume. By March 6th, exactly 1 year and 8 days after the accident, I could hear almost everything in my right ear. My left ear was still deaf, but having one functioning ear felt like a miracle. I could hear birds, music, my own voice. That's when I decided to surprise my family. I didn't tell anyone. I wanted to prepare something special, a celebration dinner. I'd cook Michael's favorite meal and reveal I could hear again. I imagined their joy, their tears of happiness. I set the date for March 15th, 9 days after my hearing returned. But Michael called 2 days early. He and Rebecca needed to stay with me for a few days. Their house was being fumigated for termites. "Of course," I wrote back. "You're always welcome." They moved in on March 13th, and for the next 2 days, while they thought I was still completely deaf, I heard everything they said. Everything. And what I heard changed me forever. They arrived on Thursday afternoon, March 13th, around 3:30 p.m. Michael pulled into the driveway in his silver SUV. Rebecca stepped out, designer sunglasses on her head, phone pressed to her ear. Emma and Daniel tumbled out with their backpacks and tablets. Michael started unloading suitcases. I opened the front door and waved. Michael smiled back. Rebecca glanced at me, gave a tight smile, and kept talking. The kids ran past me without looking up from their screens. No hugs, no hellos. But they thought I couldn't hear them anyway, so why bother speaking? I had been deaf so long that everyone had stopped trying to communicate unless absolutely necessary. It was easier to ignore me. I had become invisible, a piece of furniture in my own life. But now I could hear, and they had no idea. I helped Michael carry suitcases upstairs. Rebecca was still on the phone in the driveway. I could hear her perfectly through my right ear. "No, I told you. We'll be staying at Michael's mother's house for 3 days. 4 at most. Yes, it's inconvenient, but what choice do we have?" There was a pause. Then she laughed. That sharp, brittle laugh. "Oh God, no. She can't hear anything. We could throw a rock concert in there and she wouldn't notice. Honestly, it's kind of a blessing. We can talk freely without worrying about her eavesdropping." Something cold settled in my stomach, but I told myself not to overreact. Rebecca had always been thoughtless with her words. She didn't mean it cruelly. She was just being practical. Right? That evening, I cooked dinner. Pot roast with carrots and potatoes, the meal I used to make every Sunday when Michael was growing up. I set the table with my good china, the set Richard and I got as a wedding gift 47 years ago. I put out fresh flowers. We sat down at 6:30 p.m. I couldn't hear everything perfectly. I had to position my right ear toward whoever was speaking, but I caught enough. Michael and Rebecca talked about work. Emma complained about school. Daniel made car noises with his toy truck. I watched them all and felt a strange mixture of joy and sadness. Joy because I could hear them again. Sadness, because none of them knew. None of them looked at me long enough to notice the tears in my eyes. After dinner, Rebecca took the kids upstairs for baths. Michael helped me clear the table. He wrote on his phone, "Thanks for letting us stay, Mom. I know it's an inconvenience." I typed back, "You're never an inconvenience. You're my son. This is your home too." He smiled and squeezed my shoulder. Then his phone rang. He walked into the living room and answered. I was in the kitchen loading the dishwasher, and he thought I couldn't hear him. But I could. "Hey, yeah, I'm at my mom's place. We're staying here for a few days while the house gets fumigated." A pause. "No, it's fine. I mean, it's kind of depressing, you know? She just sits there all day, can't hear anything, can't really do much. I feel bad for her, but honestly, it's hard to be around her now. She's not the same person she used to be." Each word was a small cut. Not deep enough to kill, but enough to bleed. I stood at the sink with my hands in the soapy water, not moving, barely breathing, listening to my son talk about me like I was already dead. "Yeah, Rebecca and I have talked about it. We think she might need to move into some kind of assisted living situation soon. She can't live alone like this forever. It's not safe. And we can't keep checking on her all the time. We have our own lives." The person on the other end said something. "I know, it sounds harsh, but you didn't see her at Christmas. She just sat there like a zombie. The kids don't even know how to interact with her anymore. It's sad, but it's reality." He hung up. I heard him walk back. I quickly pretended to focus on the dishes. He tapped my shoulder, gave me a thumbs up and a smile. Then he went upstairs. I stood alone in the kitchen, my hands shaking, water dripping from my fingers onto the floor. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. I could hear sounds I hadn't heard in a year. The house settling, a car passing, the refrigerator humming. Beautiful, ordinary sounds that reminded me I was alive. But I also heard Rebecca and Michael talking in the guest room next to mine. Their voices were muffled, but I could make out words if I pressed my right ear against the wall. "How long do we have to stay here?" "Just until Sunday. 3 more days. I can't stand it. The whole house smells like old people. And she just stares at us with those sad eyes. It's creepy. She's my mother, Rebecca." "I know, but she's not really here anymore, you know? She's just existing. It's depressing." I pulled my ear away from the wall. I didn't want to hear more. Not yet. I wasn't ready. Friday morning, I baked chocolate chip cookies, Emma's favorite. When she came downstairs at 10 a.m., still in her pajamas, I offered her the plate. She took 2 cookies without looking at me and went back to her tablet. I tapped her shoulder and held up a notepad. "How is school?" She glanced at it, shrugged, and walked away. I stood there holding the notepad, feeling more invisible than when I was completely deaf. That afternoon, Rebecca had a friend over. A woman named Stephanie. They sat in my living room drinking coffee while I was in the kitchen preparing dinner. They were talking freely because they thought I couldn't hear a word. "So you're stuck here all weekend?" Stephanie asked. "Unfortunately. The fumigation takes 72 hours. We couldn't afford a hotel, and Michael didn't want to impose on friends, so here we are." "How is she doing?" "Helen, I mean." A long pause. Then Rebecca said, in a voice heavy with false sympathy, "She's deteriorating. Physically she's fine, but mentally and emotionally she's just given up. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't go anywhere. She just sits in this house waiting to die. That's so sad." "It is. But honestly, Stephanie, I know this sounds terrible, but sometimes I think it would be easier for everyone if she just went into a care facility. Michael feels so guilty about not spending more time with her, but what can he do? He has a job, a wife, kids. He can't be responsible for his elderly deaf mother on top of everything else. Have you talked to him about it?" "We've talked. He's not ready yet, but I think within the next year we'll have to. She can't drive. She can't hear. She's becoming a liability. A liability. That's what I was to my daughter-in-law. Not a person. Not Michael's mother. Not the woman who had welcomed her into the family, helped plan her wedding, babysat her children countless times. A liability. I walked out and stood in the doorway. They both looked up, startled. Rebecca's face went red. I held up my notepad. "Would you like more coffee?" Rebecca recovered quickly and smiled. "No thank you, Helen. We're fine." I nodded and went back to the kitchen. My hands were trembling so badly I had to grip the counter to steady myself. That evening, after dinner, I went to my bedroom early. I sat on the edge of my bed and thought about what I had heard in just 36 hours. My son calling me depressing. My daughter-in-law calling me a liability. My granddaughter not even acknowledging my existence. I had planned to reveal my recovered hearing at a beautiful dinner on Sunday. I had imagined tears of joy, hugs, celebration. But now I wondered, what else would I hear before Sunday came? What other truths were hiding behind the silence they thought protected them? Part of me wanted to tell them right then, to walk downstairs and say, "I can hear you. I've heard everything." But something stopped me. Some instinct that whispered, "Wait, listen. Learn who they really are when they think you can't hear." So I decided to keep my secret for 2 more days, until Sunday, until the dinner. I had no idea that what I would hear in those next 48 hours would break my heart in ways I never imagined possible. Saturday morning, I woke at 6:15 a.m., listening to sounds I'd been denied for 11 months. The furnace clicking, a bird chirping, floorboards creaking above me. But now they brought only anxiety about what I might hear next. I went downstairs to make breakfast like I used to every Saturday when Michael was a boy. Pancakes, eggs, bacon. A family tradition from happier times. Michael came down at 7:30 a.m., surprised. He typed, "You're up early, Mom. Can't sleep?" I typed back, "Old habits. I thought I'd make everyone breakfast." He smiled without warmth. "You don't have to do that," he typed. "We can just grab cereal." "I want to," I wrote. "Please." He nodded and sat with his coffee. I turned to the stove, positioning my right ear away, pretending I couldn't hear when he called Rebecca. "Hey, you awake? Mom's making this whole big breakfast." "I know. Just come down and eat it so she feels useful. We'll leave right after, I promise." So she feels useful. Those words stabbed deeper than he could ever know. Rebecca came down 20 minutes later, already dressed, makeup perfect. The kids followed, glued to devices. We sat at the table. Emma ate 3 bites and pushed her plate away. Daniel didn't even try the pancakes. Rebecca picked at her eggs, checking her phone constantly. After breakfast, Michael wrote, "We're taking the kids to the mall. Give you some space. We'll be back around 6. I watched them leave. Rebecca touched my arm briefly as she passed. That patronizing touch you give someone you pity. The house fell silent. But this silence was filled with absence, with abandonment, with the echo of words I wished I hadn't heard. I spent the afternoon cleaning, trying not to think. Had they always felt this way? Or had my deafness changed me so much that I had become someone they couldn't love anymore? I had become invisible because being visible required too much effort from everyone else. Maybe Rebecca was right. Maybe I had given up. Maybe I was just existing, not living. But I hadn't had a choice. I didn't choose to be deaf. I didn't choose to lose my husband. I didn't choose to become old and burdensome. Sometimes we trust too much in those who don't deserve it. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Share your story in the comments. I want to read you and know I'm not alone in this. They returned at 6:30 p.m. with takeout Chinese food. We ate dinner and I watched my family laugh and talk around me. And I sat there, present but absent, understanding nothing about how I had become so peripheral to their lives. That night, after everyone went to bed, I couldn't sleep. Around 11:45 p.m., I heard Rebecca's voice through the wall. She was on the phone. "I know it's late, but I needed to talk to someone who understands. Michael is already asleep, and I just need to vent." She paused. "It's his mother. We've been here 2 days, and it's driving me insane. She's so needy, always hovering. Like this morning, she made this huge breakfast nobody wanted. It's like she's trying to prove she's still relevant." Another pause. "No, Michael won't hear any criticism of her. He's in total denial. He still sees her as this capable, independent woman, but she's not. She's deteriorating. Someone needs to make hard decisions soon. I pressed my ear harder against the wall. I've been looking at places. There's an assisted living facility about 30 minutes from our house. Cedar Springs. It's expensive, but she could sell this house and that would cover it for years. She'd have 24-hour care, activities, other people her age. She'd probably be happier. The person on the other end said something. I know I should talk to Michael about it more seriously, but he gets so emotional. He feels guilty because his dad died, and now she's alone. But that's not our fault. We can't sacrifice our lives because she's old and deaf. She laughed quietly. Sometimes I fantasize about it, about having our house back to ourselves, about not having to visit her every week out of obligation. Is that terrible? The person apparently reassured her. Thank you. I knew I could count on you to understand. Michael would never get it. He's too close to the situation. I pulled away from the wall and stared at the ceiling. Rebecca wanted to put me in a nursing home. She was already looking at facilities, already planning my exile, and Michael was apparently too weak to stand up to his wife. Sunday morning came, the day of my planned revelation. But now I didn't want to celebrate. I wanted to know the whole truth before I revealed my secret. Only Michael came down for breakfast. He looked tired, older than his 44 years. He typed, "Rebecca and the kids are sleeping in. We'll probably head home after lunch." After breakfast, I was folding laundry when I heard Rebecca and Emma coming downstairs. "Grandma's house always smells weird," Emma said. "I know, sweetie. We'll be home soon." "Why can't Grandma hear anything?" Rebecca paused. Grandma was in a car accident, and it hurt the part of her brain that helps her hear. The doctors don't think she'll ever hear again. That's sad. It is sad. But sometimes sad things happen. Grandma is old, and things don't work as well when you're old. Your body breaks down. It's just part of life. They came into the living room. Emma looked at me with pity, maybe fear. Rebecca typed, "We're going to pack up. Thank you for letting us stay." I typed back, "Any time. You're always welcome here." I sat there holding a towel, realizing something that made my chest tighten. They were all just waiting for me to die. Not maliciously, but with the passive anticipation people have when waiting for an inevitable inconvenience to end. By 2 p.m. they were packed. Michael hugged me quickly. Rebecca waved. The kids were already in the car. I watched them drive away until the car disappeared. Then I went back inside and asked myself, now what? What do you do when you discover that the people you love most see you as a burden? When your existence has become an obligation? I had one more day until my appointment with Dr. Chen. One more day to decide what to do with my secret, but I had no idea that the worst was yet to come. Monday morning, I woke at 5:47 a.m. with a decision crystallizing into clarity. I would not tell them yet. Not at dinner. Not this week. Maybe not ever. I would keep my hearing a secret and use it to truly understand what my life had become. What I had become to them. The thought made me feel guilty and powerful at the same time. Guilty because good mothers aren't supposed to spy on their children. Powerful because for the first time in a year, I had something they didn't know about. A secret that leveled the playing field. I made coffee, savoring the sound of it brewing, the gurgle and hiss I had missed desperately. I sat at my kitchen table watching the sun rise, thinking about all the signs I had ignored over the years, signs that had nothing to do with being deaf. The truth was, my relationship with Michael and Rebecca had been deteriorating long before the accident. I had just been too blind or too afraid to see it. 5 years ago, when Richard was still alive, we went to Michael's house for Thanksgiving. Rebecca had been stressed all day, snapping at Michael, barely speaking to me. When I offered to help with dishes, she said with ice in her voice, "I have a system, Helen. It's easier if you just stay out of my way." Richard heard it. On the drive home, he said, "That woman has no respect for you. Why do you let her talk to you like that?" I had defended Rebecca. She's just stressed. Hosting is hard. She doesn't mean anything by it. But she did mean something by it. She had meant it then, and she meant it now. The difference was that now I was willing to see it. For 18 years, I had been a single mother after Michael's father walked out when he was 2. Yes, Richard came into our lives when Michael was 12 and had been a wonderful stepfather. But those first 10 years, it had been just me and Michael against the world. I had worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat: receptionist during the day, cleaning office buildings at night. I had no social life, no hobbies, no time for myself. Everything I did was for Michael. I made sure he had good clothes, even if mine were threadbare. I made sure he had birthday parties, even if I had to skip meals to afford the cake. I made sure he got to college, even if it meant taking out loans I was still paying off when I was 60. And I never once complained. Never once made him feel like a burden. Because that's what mothers do. We sacrifice. We give. We love unconditionally. But apparently, that love had an expiration date. Apparently, once you became old and inconvenient, your years of sacrifice were forgotten. I spent Monday cleaning my house from top to bottom, channeling my anger and hurt into scrubbing and organizing. In the guest room, I noticed Rebecca had left behind an expensive-looking pearl earring on the nightstand. I picked it up and held it in my palm. The old Helen would have called immediately, would have offered to drive it over. The new Helen, the one who had heard herself called a liability, put the earring in a drawer and said nothing. That evening, Michael called. I had a video call app that provided closed captioning for deaf people. It was how we had been communicating for months. The captions appeared: "Hi, Mom. Just checking in. How are you doing? Everything okay?" I typed back, "I'm fine. House is quiet without everyone here." We talked for about 5 minutes. Pleasantries, surface-level nonsense. The kind of conversation you have with an elderly relative you're obligated to check on. Before he hung up, the captions caught, "Love you, Mom. Talk soon." But I could hear him. I could hear the actual tone of his voice. And it was flat, automatic. The way you say "I love you" when it's a habit, not a feeling. Tuesday morning, I had my appointment with Dr. Chen. When I walked in, his assistant Jennifer automatically started signing hello. I smiled and signed back, even though I could hear her perfectly when she said, "Go ahead and have a seat, Helen. Dr. Chen will be right with you." Dr. Chen led me into his office and ran tests for 90 minutes. Then he pulled up a chair, his smile wide. He spoke slowly. "Helen, this is extraordinary. Your right ear hearing is now at 85% of normal. Your left ear is starting to show activity too. You're experiencing a nearly complete recovery. This is remarkable." He paused. "You must be so happy. This is a miracle." I smiled and nodded. I typed, "I am grateful. Very grateful." But I didn't tell him I had been hearing for almost a week now. I didn't tell him this miracle had shown me truths I wished I could unhear. He asked, "Have you told your family yet? About the progress?" I shook my head and typed, "I want to wait until the recovery is complete. I want to surprise them." He nodded, understanding. "That's beautiful. They're going to be so overjoyed." I nodded again, even though I knew the truth. They wouldn't be overjoyed. They would be uncomfortable. Because my hearing meant I could hear what they said about me. That afternoon at the grocery store, I heard a woman on her phone near the dairy section. "I don't know what I'm going to do about my mother-in-law. She's driving me absolutely insane. She's always calling, always wanting to visit, always acting like we owe her something just because she raised my husband." I stopped, pretending to look at yogurt, but really listening. I know I should be more patient, but honestly, I'll be relieved when she's not around anymore. Is that horrible? My husband would kill me if he heard me say that. I wanted to see if she looked like Rebecca, if every daughter-in-law in the world felt this way about their husband's mother. But I didn't. I just grabbed my yogurt and moved on. That night I sat in my living room thinking about all the signs I had ignored over the years. Not just with Michael and Rebecca, but in my whole life. Signs that people were pulling away. Signs that I was becoming less important. Richard used to tell me I was too forgiving, too willing to overlook slights and insults, too afraid of conflict. He was right. I had spent my whole life smoothing things over, making excuses for other people's bad behavior, convincing myself that love meant accepting whatever crumbs of affection people threw my way. But hearing changes things, literally and metaphorically. When you can hear what people really think of you, when their masks slip because they believe you can't hear them, you can't unsee the truth. Wednesday came, Thursday, Friday. Each day I went about my life, and each day I heard sounds that reminded me I was alive. But I felt more dead inside than I had during my entire year of deafness, because silence had protected me. Silence had let me believe lies. Silence had been a blessing I hadn't recognized. And now I had to decide, what do you do with the truth once you hear it? Saturday morning, March 22nd, 1 week after my family had left, I woke to my phone ringing at 7:15 a.m. Michael's name on the caller ID. I answered using the video captioning app. His face appeared, and the captions rolled as he spoke. "Hey, Mom. Hope I didn't wake you. Listen, Rebecca's birthday is next Saturday the 29th, and we're having a dinner party at our house. About 20 people. Can you come? It would mean a lot to Rebecca. Would it? Or was this another obligation, another checkbox on their list to appear like good, caring family members?" But I typed, "Of course. What time?" 6 p.m. It's going to be casual, nothing fancy. Just family and close friends. "I'll be there," I typed. "Great. Looking forward to it, Mom." He hung up. I sat on my bed wondering what I would hear at that dinner party. What truths would be revealed when 20 people gathered and they all thought I was safely trapped in my deaf little bubble? Part of me dreaded it. Part of me needed it. Because I still had a sliver of hope that maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe there was still love underneath the frustration. The week passed slowly. I went to Dr. Chen on Wednesday. More tests. More remarkable progress. My left ear was now at 40% hearing, my right ear at 90%. He was calling me his miracle patient. I still didn't tell him I was keeping my recovery a secret. I just smiled and nodded while I felt like I was preparing for a funeral. The death of the mother I thought I was. The death of the family I thought I had. Saturday the 29th arrived. I spent the morning getting ready. I wore a navy blue dress that Richard had always liked. I did my makeup carefully. I wanted to show them I wasn't deteriorating. I wasn't giving up. I was still here. I took an Uber to Michael's house, arriving at exactly 6 p.m. The driveway was full of cars. I could hear music and laughter coming from inside, the sound of people enjoying themselves. Michael opened the door, smiled, and pulled me into a hug. "Welcome, Mom," he said loudly, over-enunciating the way people do when they think you're reading lips. The house was full of people. Rebecca's sister Janet, Michael's colleague Brian, neighbors, people I didn't know. Rebecca came over, perfectly dressed, her smile bright and fake. She hugged me briefly and mouthed slowly, "Thank you for coming." I handed her the expensive scented candle set I had brought. She took it without looking and handed it to someone else to put with the other gifts. Then she turned back to her guests. I was dismissed. I found a seat on the couch. Emma gave me a quick hug before running off. A few people nodded politely. One of Rebecca's friends came over and spoke very slowly and loudly. "Hi, Helen. How are you? The way you talk to a child or a dog." I smiled and gave her a thumbs up. She nodded and walked away. While I'm telling you all this, I wonder where you might be listening to me. Write your city's name in the comments. I'd love to know where my words are reaching. I sat there for the first hour, invisible and visible at the same time. People moved around me like I was furniture. They talked and laughed and I could hear every word, but no one included me in any conversation. Or so they thought. At one point, I got up to use the bathroom. As I walked down the hallway, I passed Michael's home office. The door was slightly open, and I heard voices inside. I stopped. Michael and Brian, his colleague from work. "So how's your mom doing?" Brian asked. "I heard about the accident." "That's rough, man." Michael sighed. "It's been hard. She's been completely deaf for over a year now. And honestly, it's changed her. She's not the same person. That must be tough on your family." "It is. Rebecca has been a saint about it, but I can tell she's struggling. We have to visit Mom every week, write everything down to communicate. It's exhausting. And the kids don't really know how to relate to her anymore. Have you thought about other living arrangements? A long pause. I pressed myself against the wall, barely breathing. We've talked about it. There are some really good assisted living places around here, but I don't know if I can pull the trigger. She's my mom. She raised me. She sacrificed a lot for me. Putting her in a home feels like abandonment. But you can't sacrifice your life for her either, man. You've got your own family to think about. I know. Rebecca says the same thing. She's been looking at places, pricing things out. Mom could sell her house, and that would pay for a really nice facility. She'd probably be happier there anyway. Sounds like you've already made the decision. Not yet, but soon. Probably in the next few months. I just need to find the right time to talk to her about it. I couldn't listen anymore. I walked quickly to the bathroom and locked the door. I looked at myself in the mirror. My makeup was smudged. My eyes were red. I looked old. I looked exactly like what Rebecca had called me. Deteriorating. But I wasn't deteriorating. I was standing right here, fully aware, fully capable, fully hearing every word they said about discarding me like garbage. I washed my face, fixed my makeup, and went back out. Dinner was served at 7:30, catered Mexican food. Everyone filled their plates. I sat at the dining table in a corner seat. After dinner, Rebecca opened her gifts. When she got to my candle set, she held it up briefly, said "Thank you, Helen," without looking at me, and set it aside. At 9 p.m., people started leaving. I stayed to help clean up even though Rebecca waved me away. By 9:45, everyone was gone except me. Michael was putting the kids to bed upstairs. Rebecca and I were in the kitchen. She loaded the dishwasher. I wrapped leftover food. She didn't speak to me, didn't acknowledge my presence. Then Michael's phone rang. It was sitting on the counter. Rebecca picked it up and looked at the screen. "It's your mom's doctor," she said to herself. "Dr. Chen." She answered it. I froze. "Hello?" "Oh, hi, Dr. Chen. This is Rebecca, Michael's wife. He's upstairs." "Can I take a message?" She listened. Her face changed. Confusion, then surprise, then something cold. "Wait, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? Helen's hearing has returned? When? A week and a half ago?" My heart stopped. "And she's been coming to appointments? She knows her hearing is back?" Dr. Chen must have confirmed it, probably thinking he was talking to family who already knew. Rebecca's eyes found mine across the kitchen. The look on her face was not joy or relief. It was betrayal, anger, calculation. "Okay, thank you for calling, Dr. Chen. I'll make sure Michael gets the message." She hung up. We stared at each other across the kitchen. The silence between us was deafening. Then she spoke, every word ice. "You can hear me right now, can't you, Helen?" I didn't move, didn't breathe. She took a step toward me. "How long? How long have you been able to hear?" I couldn't lie anymore. I couldn't pretend anymore. So I spoke out loud for the first time in a week, about 10 days. Her face went white, then red. 10 days. "You've been able to hear for 10 days and you didn't tell us?" "I wanted to surprise you," I said. My voice sounded strange, rusty from not being used. Surprise us? Or spy on us? I didn't answer. "Oh my God," she said. The realization was dawning on her. "You were here last weekend. When we stayed at your house, you heard everything we said, didn't you?" Michael appeared in the doorway. "What's going on? Why are you shouting?" Rebecca turned to him, her voice shaking. "Your mother can hear, Michael. She's been able to hear for over a week, and she's been listening to us this whole time without telling us." Michael's face went through the same journey as Rebecca's. Confusion, shock, and then something worse. Betrayal. "Mom? Is that true?" I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "Yes." And everything changed. The three of us stood in that kitchen, frozen in a moment that felt like it could shatter at any second. The dishwasher hummed. The refrigerator clicked. All the sounds I had missed for a year. Now the soundtrack to the destruction of my family. Michael spoke first, his voice tight. "Mom, Is it true? You can hear? Yes, I said quietly. I can hear. For how long? 10 days. Almost 11 now. He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized from when he was a boy. 11 days. You've been able to hear for 11 days and you didn't tell us? I wanted to surprise you. I was planning a special dinner, but then you needed a place to stay and— And what? Rebecca interrupted, her voice sharp as glass. You decided to spy on us instead? I wasn't spying, I paused. I wanted to wait for the right moment. The right moment? Rebecca's laugh was bitter. That's not something you wait for. That's something you share immediately. Unless you had another reason for keeping it secret. Michael stared at me like he'd never seen me before. What did you hear, Mom? The question hung in the air. This was it. The moment where I could lie or tell the truth and let the consequences come. I chose the truth. I heard you on the phone with your friend, saying it was hard to be around me, that I wasn't the same person anymore, that you've been talking about moving me into assisted living. Michael's face went pale. I heard Rebecca tell her friend that I'm deteriorating, that I'm a liability. I heard her say she fantasizes about not having to visit me anymore out of obligation. Rebecca's mouth opened, then closed. I heard you tonight, Michael, in your office, telling Brian that Rebecca has been looking at facilities, that you're planning to sell my house and put me away somewhere in the next few months. My voice broke. The tears I had been holding back started flowing freely. I heard my granddaughter say my house smells weird. I heard you say I'm not really here anymore, that I'm just existing. Stop, Michael said. Mom, just stop. Why? After a year of being silent? After a year of being invisible? Now you want me to stop talking? Rebecca found her voice. You had no right to listen to private conversations. Private conversations? In my own house? About me? About putting me in a home? About selling the house I shared with Richard? I had no right to hear that. If you had told us you could hear, we would have— What? I turned on her, all the hurt and rage pouring out. You would have what, Rebecca? Been more careful? Pretended to care about me? Hidden your true feelings better? That's not fair. Fair? I welcomed you into this family. I helped plan your wedding. I babysat your children hundreds of times. And you repay me by calling me a burden? By planning to put me away like I'm garbage? We were trying to think about what's best for everyone, Rebecca said, but her voice was less certain now. No. You were thinking about what's best for you, what's most convenient for you. Michael stepped between us. Okay, everyone needs to calm down. Mom, I understand you're upset. Upset? I'm heartbroken, Michael. I'm devastated. I spent a year in silence thinking my family still loved me, still valued me. And then I get my hearing back and I discover it was all an illusion. That's not true, he said, but there was no conviction in his voice. Isn't it? Tell me honestly, Michael. When was the last time you visited me because you wanted to, not because you felt obligated? He didn't answer. He couldn't. Rebecca's anger returned. You want honesty? Fine. Yes, it's hard having you in our lives. Yes, it's exhausting writing everything down and watching you sit there looking miserable at every family gathering. Yes, we've talked about other options because we don't know what else to do. So the solution is to throw me away? That's not what we're doing. That's exactly what you're doing. You're planning to take my house, the last thing I have from my life with Richard, sell it, and use the money to put me somewhere so you don't have to deal with me anymore. Michael's voice was strained. It's not like that. Those facilities are nice places. You'd have care, activities, people your own age. I don't want people my own age. I want my family. I want my son. I want my grandchildren. I want to matter to someone. You do matter, he said weakly. Do I? Really? Because everything I've heard this past week tells me otherwise. It tells me I'm an inconvenience, a problem to be solved. I wiped my eyes, but the hurt was too deep, too raw. Do you know what the worst part is? It's not the things you said. It's that you said them so easily, so casually. Like, of course I'm a burden. Like, of course you'd be relieved when I'm gone. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. I raised you alone, Michael. After your father left, it was just us. I worked 2 jobs. I went without food so you could eat. I sacrificed everything to give you a good life. And now, when I need you, your response is to look for a way to get rid of me. That's not fair, Michael said, but his voice cracked. We're trying to do what's best. For who? Not me. I don't want to be put away. I want to live in my house. I want to see my grandchildren. I want to be part of this family. Then you should have told us you could hear again, Rebecca shot back. You should have been honest instead of sneaking around. Maybe you shouldn't have private conversations about discarding me like I'm garbage. The words hung in the air, harsh and final. Michael sat down at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. Rebecca stood with her arms crossed. I stood by the counter, shaking with adrenaline and grief. Finally, Michael spoke. I don't know what you want from us, Mom. I want you to love me, not out of obligation, but because I'm your mother and I matter. I do love you. Do you? Or do you love the idea of me? The memory of who I used to be? He looked up, tears in his eyes. You're right. You're not the same person you were before the accident. You've changed. Of course I changed. I lost my hearing. I lost my husband. I lost my independence. And instead of helping me find my way back, you pulled away. You made me feel like my suffering was an inconvenience to you. I took a shaky breath. I'm not going into assisted living. That's not happening. My house is mine. My life is mine. And if you can't accept that, if you can't accept me, then maybe we need to reevaluate this relationship. Michael's head snapped up. What are you saying? I'm saying I won't be pushed aside. I won't be warehoused somewhere because it makes your life easier. I'm 69 years old, not 99. I'm capable, I'm independent. And now I can hear again. There's no reason for me to go anywhere. Rebecca and Michael exchanged a look. In that look was everything I needed to know. They had already made plans, and my miraculous recovery was an inconvenience to those plans. I think I should go, I said, my voice steady despite the tears. Mom, wait. Michael started to stand. No, I need to go. I need to think, and you need to think too, about what you really want, about whether having your mother in your life is worth the inconvenience. I grabbed my purse and walked toward the front door. Michael followed. Mom, please, don't leave like this. I turned to look at him one last time. We've talked enough. Now I know the truth. Now you know that I know. Everything is different now. I can still love you, I said quietly. But I can't trust you anymore. And I don't know if that can ever be repaired. I walked out, down the front path, and called an Uber from the sidewalk. As I waited, I looked back at the house. Through the window, I could see Michael and Rebecca arguing, a tableau of a family breaking apart. When the Uber arrived, I got in. As we pulled away, I allowed myself one last look back. Michael was standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the light, watching me leave. I wondered if he was thinking about all the times I had watched him leave. All the times I had stood in doorways waving goodbye, hoping he'd turn around and wave one more time. But he didn't wave. He just stood there. And then we turned the corner, and he was gone. The driver asked if I was okay. I realized I was crying silently. I will be, I said. Eventually, I will be. But in that moment, driving through the dark streets toward my empty house, I had never felt more alone. I got home at 10:47 p.m. The house was dark and cold. I turned on the lights and stood in my living room, feeling like a stranger in my own home. Everything looked different now. The couch where I had cried myself to sleep, the photos on the mantle of Michael as a boy, of our family when Richard was alive, the kitchen where I had cooked countless meals for a family that saw me as a burden. I sat at the kitchen table and let myself fall apart completely. I cried until my throat was raw and my eyes were swollen. I cried for the mother I thought I was. I cried for the son I thought I had. I cried for the family that had never really existed the way I believed it did. My phone started ringing at 11:15 p.m. Michael's name lit up the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. And again. 7 times in 20 minutes. Then text messages came. "Mom, please pick up. We need to talk about this. I'm sorry. Please just call me back. Mom, I'm worried about you." I turned my phone face down and let it buzz. At midnight, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Michael on my front porch. He looked tired and lost and young, like the boy he used to be when he'd had a nightmare. But I wasn't going to tell him everything was okay, because it wasn't. I opened the door but left the chain lock on. Through the gap, I said, "Go home, Michael. Mom, please let me in. We need to talk. Not tonight. I can't do this tonight. I'm not leaving until you let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I heard what I heard. I know what I know. Go home to your wife and children. Mom." His voice cracked, and for a moment I almost gave in. Almost opened the door and let him apologize. But how it was had been a lie. A comfortable lie I had been living in for years. "Please," he said again, "I'm your son. And I'm your mother." But apparently that doesn't mean what I thought it meant. That's not fair. I closed the door. I heard him standing there for a long moment. Then footsteps. Then his car starting. Then silence. I went upstairs and lay down fully clothed on top of the covers. I could hear every sound in the house. The furnace, the pipes settling, the clock ticking. Sounds I had dreamed about hearing again. But they brought no comfort. They only reminded me that I was alone. Truly, deeply alone. I didn't sleep that night. I thought about everything that had led to this moment. Not just the past year, but decades. All the small moments of pulling away that I had ignored or explained away. When Michael got married and started spending every holiday with Rebecca's family. When weekly visits became bi-weekly, then monthly. When the phone calls got shorter. When Emma and Daniel started seeing me as a strange old woman who gave them money rather than as their grandmother who loved them desperately. All the signs had been there. I had just been too afraid to see them. Sunday morning came gray and cold. My phone showed 23 missed calls and 41 text messages, most from Michael, a few from Rebecca. Michael's messages were apologetic. "I love you. Please believe that. We need to talk. Don't shut me out." Rebecca's were defensive. "You took what we said out of context. We were just venting. Everyone vents about their family. It doesn't mean we don't care about you." But that was exactly what it meant. When you plan to sell someone's house and institutionalize them without their knowledge, it means you don't care about them. It means they're a problem to be solved, not a person to be loved. At 9 a.m., my doorbell rang. I ignored it. It rang again and again. I looked out the window and saw Rebecca's car in my driveway. Both she and Michael were at my door. Rebecca was holding a bakery box, a peace offering. I didn't answer. After 5 minutes, they left the box on my doorstep and drove away. I waited 10 minutes, then brought the box inside. Croissants, my favorite. The expensive kind that cost $8 each. They had bought me expensive croissants to apologize for planning to take my house and put me in a home. I threw the entire box in the garbage. Monday morning, I had an appointment with Dr. Chen. When I walked into his office, Jennifer, the assistant, stopped and stared. "Helen, did you just respond to me, without reading my lips?" I nodded. "My hearing is back, almost completely." Her face lit up with genuine joy that made my heart hurt, because this near stranger was happier about my recovery than my own son seemed to be. Dr. Chen hugged me when he came out. "Helen, this is extraordinary. You're my miracle patient. How does it feel?" "Complicated," I said honestly. We sat in his office and I told him everything. He listened without judgment. When I finished, he said, "You know, patients who regain their hearing after a long loss often tell me the same thing, that the world is louder than they remembered, harsher. That silence had protected them in ways they didn't realize. That's exactly how I feel. But here's the thing, Helen. You can't unhear what you heard. You can't unknow what you know. So the question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge?" "I don't know. Do you want a relationship with your son and his family?" Of course I do, but not on their terms, not as a burden they're obligated to manage. Then you need to tell them that, clearly, and you need to set boundaries. Tuesday morning, I called Michael. He answered on the first ring. Mom, are you okay? I'm fine. I need to tell you something. I took a deep breath. I love you, Michael. I will always love you. You're my son, and that will never change. But I can't continue this relationship the way it's been. I can't be the burden you manage out of obligation. I can't be the problem you're trying to solve. Mom, that's not... Please let me finish. I need to say this. He went quiet. I deserve respect. I deserve to be included in decisions about my life. I deserve to be valued, not tolerated. And if you can't give me those things, then we need to have some distance until you can. What are you saying? I'm saying I need space. I need time to figure out what I want my life to look like. And you need time to figure out whether you want me in your life because you love me or because you feel obligated. The silence was long and heavy. How long? He finally asked. I don't know. As long as it takes. What about Emma and Daniel? That hurt most of all. Tell them their grandma loves them. Tell them I need some time, but I'll see them soon. And Michael? Yeah? Think about what kind of man you want to be. Not the man Rebecca wants you to be, or the man you think you should be, but the man you actually are. And ask yourself if that man is someone who puts his 69-year-old mother in a home against her will because it's convenient. I hung up before he could respond. For the next 3 days, I didn't hear from anyone. No calls, no texts, no knocks. The silence was different this time. It wasn't imposed on me. I had chosen it. And that made all the difference. On Friday afternoon, 5 days after the confrontation, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw someone I didn't expect. Emma, my 9-year-old granddaughter, standing alone on my porch, her backpack on her shoulders, tears streaming down her face. I opened the door immediately. Emma, what are you doing here? Where are your parents? She looked up at me with Richard's blue eyes and said the words that changed everything. Grandma, I know you can hear me now, and I need to tell you something. Something I heard Daddy say that you need to know. I pulled Emma inside immediately, my heart racing. Sweetheart, how did you get here? Does your mom know where you are? She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I took the bus. I remembered the number from when Daddy used to bring me here. I had $5 in my piggy bank. Emma, that's not safe. Your parents must be worried sick. I don't care. I had to come. I had to tell you before it's too late. I knelt down at her eye level, my hands on her small shoulders. Tell me what, honey? She wiped her eyes. Last night, after you called Daddy, I heard him and Mommy fighting. Really fighting, yelling and everything. I was supposed to be asleep, but I snuck to the top of the stairs and listened. Emma, please, Grandma, you need to hear this. I led her to the couch. She held my hand tightly, like she was afraid I might disappear. Mommy was crying. She said you ruined everything. She said you were supposed to stay deaf, and now everything is complicated. She said they had already talked to a lawyer about getting power of attorney over you. My blood ran cold. Power of attorney? Emma nodded. I don't know what that means, but Daddy got really mad. He said that's going too far. He said you're not incompetent just because you're deaf. And Mommy said that deaf people can't manage their own affairs and that they were trying to protect you. I felt dizzy. They had been planning to take legal control of me, to make decisions about my life, my house, my future, without my consent. What else did you hear, sweetheart? Daddy said he can't do it anymore. He said he feels sick about how they've treated you. He said his dad, your husband, would be ashamed of him. Richard, oh God, Richard would have been ashamed. He would have been furious. And Mommy said Daddy had to choose. Her or you. She said if he keeps defending you and making her feel bad, she doesn't know if she can stay married to him. My granddaughter was crying again, and I pulled her into my arms. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry you heard all of that. I'm scared, Grandma. I don't want Mommy and Daddy to get divorced. But I don't want you to go away either. Why can't everyone just be nice to each other? I held her while she cried, and I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about me and Michael anymore. There were children involved, children who loved me, children who were being hurt by this conflict. Okay, I said finally. Okay, sweetheart. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to call your daddy right now and tell him you're here and you're safe. And then we're all going to sit down and talk like adults. No more secrets, no more eavesdropping, just honesty. But Grandma, no buts. This ends today. One way or another, this ends today. I called Michael. He answered before the first ring finished, his voice frantic. Mom, have you seen Emma? She's missing. We've been looking for... She's here. She's safe. She took the bus to my house. Oh, thank God. Thank God. We've been losing our minds. Rebecca is driving around the neighborhood. We were about to call the police. Michael, stop. Listen to me. Emma came here because she needed to tell me something she heard you and Rebecca arguing about. Silence on the other end. Power of attorney, Michael. You were planning to get power of attorney over me, to take legal control of my life. Mom, I can explain. No. No more explanations. No more excuses. You come here, you and Rebecca, right now. We're going to have a conversation, a real conversation, and we're going to figure this out. Because your daughter is sitting on my couch crying because she's afraid her family is falling apart. And I will not let that happen. We'll be there in 10 minutes. They were there in 8. Rebecca's face was blotchy from crying. Michael looked like he hadn't slept in days. They both rushed to Emma first, hugging her, checking that she was okay. Emma, you can't just leave like that, Rebecca said, her voice shaking. You could have been hurt. I had to tell Grandma the truth. You said Daddy had to choose. That's not fair. Grandma is family too. Rebecca's face went pale. You heard that? I hear lots of things. Just like Grandma. Michael closed his eyes and sat down heavily. We all sat there in my living room, the 4 of us, and for a moment no one spoke. Then Emma said, in that clear, honest voice that only children have, why doesn't anyone just say what they really mean? Why does everyone have to be so mean and sneaky? She was right. Children always cut through the nonsense and get to the heart of things. I looked at Rebecca. Power of attorney. You wanted to get power of attorney over me. Rebecca looked at Michael, then back at me. We thought it was necessary. With your hearing loss, we thought you needed someone to help make decisions. I don't have hearing loss anymore. And even when I did, I was still competent, still capable. You weren't trying to help me. You were trying to control me. That's not true. Stop lying. Please, Rebecca. For once, just stop lying. You wanted me out of the way. You wanted my house. You wanted your life back without the burden of checking on your elderly mother-in-law. Just admit it. Tears were streaming down her face now. Fine. Yes, I wanted you out of our lives. I'm sorry, but yes. You were always there, always needing something, always making Michael feel guilty. I married him, not his mother. I didn't sign up for this. For what? For family? For responsibility? For caring about someone other than yourself? You don't understand. You don't know what it's like to have someone constantly needing you, depending on you when you have your own children and your own life. I raised a child alone for 10 years. I worked 2 jobs. I sacrificed everything. Don't tell me I don't understand responsibility. Michael spoke, his voice hoarse. Both of you, please, just stop. We all turned to look at him. He was crying, tears running down his face. This is my fault. All of it. Mom, Rebecca, both of you. This is on me. Michael. No, let me say this. I've been a coward. I've let Rebecca push you away, Mom, because it was easier than standing up to her. I've let you become invisible because dealing with your deafness was hard and uncomfortable. I've made excuses when the truth is, I was just taking the path of least resistance. He looked at me directly. Dad would be ashamed of me. You're right about that. He loved you so much. And when he died, he made me promise to take care of you. And I broke that promise. You didn't break it. I did. I let you suffer alone. And when you needed me most, I was planning ways to make you someone else's responsibility. My own mother. The woman who gave up everything for me. He turned to Rebecca. And you. I love you. But I can't choose between you and my mother. That's not a choice you should have asked me to make. Rebecca's face was a mask of pain. So you choose her. I choose to be the man my father raised me to be. The man who takes care of the people he loves, even when it's inconvenient. If you can't accept that, then maybe we need to talk about what that means for our marriage. The room went silent. Emma was watching all of us with wide eyes. I still wonder if I did the right thing. And you? What would you have done in my place? Tell me in the comments. I truly want to know what you think. I took a deep breath. I don't want to be the reason your marriage falls apart, Michael. I don't want to be a wedge between you and Rebecca. But I also can't accept being treated like I don't matter. Like my feelings, my autonomy, my life don't count. I turned to Rebecca. I know I'm not the easiest person to deal with. I know my deafness made things harder for everyone, but I'm still a person. I still deserve respect. I still deserve to be included in decisions about my own life. Rebecca was silent, staring at her hands. And Michael, I said, I love you more than anything in this world. You are the best thing I ever did with my life. But I can't be your mother at the expense of my dignity. I looked at Emma, and this little girl, your daughter, showed more courage today than any of us have shown in months. She came here alone, scared, to make sure I knew the truth. She put herself in the middle of an adult conflict because she loves all of us. Emma came over and hugged me. I held her tight, this precious child who had her grandfather's eyes and her own fierce heart. So here's what I propose, I said. We start over. We set boundaries. We communicate honestly. Rebecca, you need to decide if you can accept that I'm part of this family and I'm not going anywhere. Michael, you need to decide if you're willing to stand up for what's right. And I need to decide if I can forgive the hurt and trust you again. Can you? Rebecca asked quietly. Forgive us? I don't know. I honestly don't know. What you did, what you planned, it broke something fundamental in me. But I'm willing to try. For Emma, for Daniel, for Michael, for the family we could still be, if we all do better. Michael came over and knelt in front of me. Mom, I swear to you. No more discussions about assisted living. No more power of attorney. No more decisions about your life without you. Your house is yours. Your life is yours. And I'm going to do better. I'm going to be the son you deserve. I touched his face. I know you will. Because underneath all the mistakes, you're still Richard's son. You're still my boy. And that boy has goodness in him. Rebecca spoke, her voice small. I'm sorry, Helen. I really am. I was selfish and cruel, and I let my frustration turn into something ugly. I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I can promise I'll try to do better. That's all any of us can promise, I said. We sat there for a long time, the four of us, talking, really talking, about boundaries and expectations, about holidays and visits, about what I needed and what they needed, about how to rebuild trust that had been broken. It wasn't comfortable. There were more tears, more hard truths, but it was necessary. It was real. Emma fell asleep on the couch around 5 p.m. Rebecca covered her with a blanket. Michael made coffee in my kitchen, and I stood at the window watching the sunset, thinking about Richard. He would be proud of me today. Proud that I stood up for myself, proud that I demanded respect. Before they left, Michael hugged me long and hard. I love you, Mom. I really do love you. I know you do, honey. And I love you too. Rebecca hugged me too, awkwardly at first, then more sincerely. Thank you for giving us another chance. Thank you for being willing to take it. They carried sleeping Emma to the car and drove away. I watched until their taillights disappeared. Then I sat in my quiet house and listened to all the sounds I could hear. The refrigerator humming, the clock ticking, a neighbor's dog barking, the wind in the trees, the sounds of life. The sounds of a world I had been absent from and had now returned to, changed and stronger. I went upstairs and opened the drawer where I kept Richard's things: his watch, his wedding ring, a letter he had written me on our 25th anniversary. I unfolded the letter and read his words. Helen, you are the strongest woman I know. You have survived things that would break most people. And you will survive anything that comes after I'm gone, because that's who you are. You're a survivor. You're a fighter. And you never, ever give up on love, even when love disappoints you. I folded the letter carefully and put it back. He was right. I was a survivor. I was a fighter. And I hadn't given up. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Trust takes time to rebuild. Relationships take work. Forgiveness is a process, not an event. But today, in my living room, with my son and daughter-in-law and granddaughter, we had started that process. We had chosen honesty over comfort. We had chosen to try rather than give up. And that, I thought, was enough for now. That was something to build on. I could hear again, not just with my ears, but with my heart. I could hear what was said and what wasn't said. I could hear love and fear and hope and pain. And most importantly, I had found my own voice again. The voice I had lost long before the accident took my hearing. The voice that said, I matter. I deserve respect. I deserve love. That voice would never be silenced again. 6 months have passed since that day. 6 months since Emma showed up at my door. 6 months since everything changed. I'm sitting in my kitchen on a Saturday morning in September, drinking coffee and listening to the birds outside my window. Simple sounds. Beautiful sounds. Sounds that remind me every day what a gift it is to hear. My left ear is now at 75% hearing. My right ear is at 95%. Dr. Chen calls me his miracle patient. He wrote a paper about my case that was published in a medical journal. But the real miracle wasn't getting my hearing back. The real miracle was finding my voice. Let me tell you what these 6 months have looked like. The first few weeks were awkward. Michael and Rebecca came to visit every Sunday, everyone trying too hard to be normal. But slowly, things got easier. We established boundaries, real boundaries. I told them I wanted to be invited to family dinners, but I needed advance notice, not last-minute obligations. I told them I wanted to see the kids, but I wouldn't be used as free babysitting. I told them I wanted honest communication, even when uncomfortable. And they listened, actually listened. Rebecca apologized again, more sincerely this time. She admitted she had felt threatened by me, that her suggestions about assisted living came from fear and selfishness rather than genuine concern. We're not best friends. We may never be. But we're learning to coexist with mutual respect. And sometimes that's enough. Michael has stepped up in ways I didn't expect. He calls me 3 times a week now, not out of obligation, but because he wants to. He stops by on his lunch break sometimes. He's become more assertive, standing up for what's right rather than what's easy. He's becoming the man his father was, the man I always knew he could be. Emma and Daniel come over every other Saturday. We bake cookies, we go to the park, we talk about school and friends and dreams. Emma told me last week that I'm her hero because I stood up for myself even when it was scary. If a 9-year-old can see that, then maybe I did something right. I've also made changes in my own life. I joined a book club at the library. I volunteer twice a week at a community center that helps people with hearing loss. I'm taking a pottery class on Thursday evenings. I'm rebuilding a life that isn't centered entirely on my family. Richard and I used to talk about traveling when we retired. We never got the chance. But last month, I booked a trip to Santa Fe for October. I'm going alone. I'm 69 years old, and I'm going on a solo trip to see art galleries and eat good food and prove to myself that my life isn't over. My house is still mine. My life is still mine, and that matters more than I can express. But I'd be lying if I said everything is perfect. There are still hard days. Days when I hear something that reminds me of what was said when they thought I couldn't hear. Days when I wonder if they're being genuine or just careful. Trust is fragile. Once broken, It doesn't fully heal. It scars over, and those scars remain tender. But then I remember, those conversations revealed the truth. An uncomfortable, painful truth, but truth nonetheless. And sometimes we need to hear the hard truths to make the necessary changes. If I hadn't heard what I heard, I might have ended up in an assisted living facility within a year, my house sold, my autonomy stripped away. I would have lost everything that made me feel like myself. So no, I don't regret it. I regret the pain. But I don't regret learning the truth. Last month was Richard's birthday. Michael came with me to the cemetery, just the two of us. We brought daffodils and stood by his grave in comfortable silence. Then Michael said, "I told Dad about everything. About what happened, about how I failed you, about how I'm trying to do better." I squeezed his hand. "Your father loved you so much, he'd be proud of who you're becoming." "I hope so. I'm trying, Mom. Every day I'm trying. That's all any of us can do. Try, fail, try again, do better." So what have I learned from all of this? First, silence doesn't always protect you. Sometimes it isolates you. Don't be afraid to speak up, to be heard, to take up space in your own life. Second, when people think you can't hear them, they reveal who they really are. And while that knowledge can hurt, it's better than living in a comfortable illusion. Third, family is complicated. Love doesn't always look like we think it should. Sometimes love is mixed with resentment and obligation. That doesn't make it not love. It just makes it human. Fourth, you're never too old to start over, to set boundaries, to demand respect. I was 69 when I finally stood up for myself. If I can do it, you can too. Fifth, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to move forward while still honoring the hurt. It means giving people a chance to do better without erasing the past. And finally, you matter. Your voice matters. Your choices matter. Your dignity matters. Don't ever let anyone, not even people you love, convince you otherwise. I'm 70 now. My hearing is almost fully restored. My relationship with my son is healing. My granddaughter thinks I'm a hero. I'm taking pottery classes and planning trips and living a life that's mine. Is it the life I imagined? No. It's better. Because it's authentic. It's honest. It's built on self-respect rather than desperate need for approval. So to you, listening to my story wherever you are, if you're being made to feel invisible, speak up. If you're being treated like a burden, set boundaries. If you're being pushed aside, stand your ground. You deserve better. You are worth more. You matter. And if you've lost something, your hearing, your independence, your sense of self, know that recovery is possible. Miracles happen. Not always the way we expect, but they happen. My miracle wasn't just getting my hearing back. It was finding myself again. The strong, capable woman I had always been, but had forgotten in the silence. That woman is still here. Still standing, still fighting, still loving, still living, and she's not going anywhere. Thank you for listening to my story. If my words have touched you, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Share your own story in the comments. Let me know where you're listening from, because we're all in this together, all of us trying to navigate family and love and loss and dignity, all of us trying to be heard, all of us trying to matter, and we do matter. Every single one of us, remember that.